This is a lot of questions and I can get chatty, so be prepared that this video could be a little bit long. My disclaimer, always get a drink and a snack before you watch this. Hey guys, my name is Brianna. Welcome to my channel. This is a Q&A because I've been getting a lot of questions from you guys in the comments of my videos, as well as my Instagram, and just some questions too when I put up stories on Snapchat or Instagram. If you're not following me on either Instagram or Snapchat, I'll put that information here so that we can connect on there as well. But the biggest question I've been getting from folks is how my husband and I selected Pressley Jane as our little girl's name. I'm 6.5 months pregnant, so we finally figured out a name. It took us quite some time. It took us 6.5 months. And we ended up selecting Pressley Jane. I think Jane will be the easier one for me just to explain first. So my husband's father's name is John, my grandfather's name is John, my father's middle name is John, and we also have James running through our family too. So I have a cousin named James on my dad's side. On my mother's side, my grandpa's twin brother is James. And if we were having a boy, we knew the middle name would be John. We'd also like played around with James. And so I figured Jane, and I threw it out there as it's kind of a girl version of John and James, and a way to honor just a lot of amazing men in our family. And then when it comes to Pressley, we had sort of a couple of reasons why we ended up selecting Pressley. One, my husband and I love music. He would make me mixtapes constantly when we first started dating. So I feel like music has always been a part of his and my history. Then my mother is a singer-songwriter. She's extremely talented. So there's a lot of just music that runs through our family. And Elvis is the king of rock and roll, and we live in Cleveland where the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is. We've taken Landon to see the really cool Elvis exhibits. So I just kind of felt like everyone's familiar with Elvis Presley, and what we really liked about it was I don't know a single girl named Pressley. My husband doesn't know a single girl named Pressley, so there was no attached connotations to the name. And we liked the fact that it just was really individual and unique, but not a name that we made up or that somebody wouldn't know how to spell or pronounce. So that was kind of our like test for all of this, was we wanted something unique that not other girls in her school would have, because at my school I was the only Brianna, at least in my grade. There might have been a Brianna a few years younger than me, like down the line in high school, but all that time in elementary school when you're really just with your grade, there was no other Briannas. So I liked being sort of unique. In the beginning, I don't think I did, but I liked being unique as I got older, so wanted her to have a unique name. And in addition to that, we were looking up name meanings. And my son is named Landon, and it's an Old English name, and it means from the hills. And Pressley is also an Old English name, and it means from the meadow. And I just thought that was perfect because I knew I wanted to do flowers in her room. She's being born in May, where I think of spring and meadows, and I just thought it was great that their names do kind of coordinate with one another. Landon and Pressley both are the same origin and have sort of similar meanings when it comes to, you know, being from the earth or the land. And I thought that was kind of cool, especially because Landon is like, we're from Cleveland, and Cleveland's often called the land. And anyways, we just liked all of those things. It all sort of fell into place. And on top of that, I was just having dreams, and I was like, her name is Pressley, I just know it. I like the fact too, this was after we selected it. So about a few days after, I had a business trip to Nashville, and on the plane, it popped into my head, if she ever runs for like senior class president or student council president someday, all of her campaign signs can say Prez for Prez or Pressley for president, and it has a nice ring to it, don't you think, for a future boss lady, leader, power woman? This is another question I've been getting from folks, both I feel like in my work circles or just as I'm talking and connecting to more folks on social media and YouTube. you get the question, why did you actually start your channel, or what made you decide to do YouTube? And for me, my undergrad was broadcast journalism. So I've always had a passion just for making videos and editing. I enjoy the creative process. It's fun for me. So that was first the one reason why I decided, yeah, I can actually do this, or I really have a desire to do this. And two was when I was pregnant with Landon, I would watch so many other mamas' pregnancy updates, and that was so just confirming for me. It made me feel so much more confident in my pregnancy, and I think knowing that I had the desire to have more kids, it did start making me feel like maybe this is something you should really act on, because what I was seeing from a lot of the other moms that I would be following is that if they were working during their first pregnancy when they were doing updates, then they ended up not working, you know, later on or in future pregnancies. And for me, I've always had the dream and the desire to be a businesswoman. It's why I worked really hard in school. It's why I got 2 degrees. And I was just hoping I could be helpful, because the YouTube mama scene has so many amazing women, and I just wanted to help bring a voice to women who do work and have careers outside of the home, because I feel like there's so many amazing stay-at-home moms that are so empowering and give such a good window of all of the work that goes into being a stay-at-home mom. But I also wanted to be able to share all of the work and how you balance the 2 worlds of being a mom but also having a career outside of the home, and that was just something important to me. So yeah, I feel like I just wanted to be a part of all of the different mama voices and women empowerment basically that is on YouTube, because it's actually an amazing space and community for just empowering women by whether it's sharing tips or life stories or hacks or wherever you might fall on your opinions or politics. I think it's really important to have a place where a bunch of diverse and unique opinions can all be shared and find that community with one another. I got this question after the most recent day in the life that I posted, and it is, what is your daycare situation? I am incredibly blessed. My grandma, so Landon's great grandma, aka Gigi, watches both Landon and Coley. I did get the question, where's the dog? Coley goes over as well, because she was technically the first grandchild or granddoggy, and they love her to pieces. So Coley and Landon go to Gigi's while I am working. Even though when I'm not traveling, I am working from home, I would get nothing done if Landon and Coley stay here during the day, unfortunately, unless I ever had a nanny or something like that. But to me, I'm incredibly blessed that my family gets to participate and play such a role in Landon's upbringing. This is also a question related to that, but it was, what will you do when baby girl is born? So when Pressley arrives. And right now the plan is Gigi's Daycare. I'm getting a 2-for-1 special. But yeah, my grandma is still, she says this gives her energy. It's what she loves to do. So Pressley will be joining Landon after I have my maternity leave. Pressley will be going with Landon to Gigi's Daycare. And the timing of it works relatively well, because it will be right around fall. It will probably be beginning of August when I go back to work if she's born at her due date. But I'm hoping to get Landon in some kind of either preschool or half-day sort of programming, just so he's getting more social interaction, because he's not going to a traditional daycare with other kids. And that way it will lessen a little bit of the load on my grandma on the day-to-day of having 2 at all times. She'll kind of have 2 half of the time. This was also a question I got in the day in the life video, but is, what do you do, or what is your job? And I'm a managing director of recruitment, so it's essentially a facet of HR. I was an executive director in HR for a public school district prior to this role, and now I'm really managing the recruitment side of things instead of the recruitment and the hiring work. And I get to travel to a bunch of the college campuses where my recruitment managers are stationed at. So it's really cool. I get to go to college campuses that I never visited. So it's really awesome. I think for my kids someday, I'll be able to tell them about, oh yeah, at Penn State, here's what I saw, or at Georgetown, here's what I saw, or at University of Maryland, here's what I saw. So it's a really awesome job, and it's recruiting for education, which I'm deeply, deeply passionate about. So we need the right leaders entering our schools and leading classrooms and being great teachers for all of our children around the country. So getting to be in this work is just amazing. What did you major in college? My undergrad was broadcast journalism and my master's is in communications, and I specialized in political science and art when I was in my undergrad. Favorite TV shows. I have like so many just favorite TV shows. I would say my guilty pleasures. I do watch The Bachelor or Bachelorette whenever they're on. And I like certain Real Housewives series. I would say the ones I watch most regularly are The New Jersey. I love me my Italian Girls, and OC and Beverly Hills, but I'll occasionally like tune into either New York or Atlanta. We canceled cable in our old house though, so it would just be totally random if I was like traveling and happened to see it in a hotel or something. So not a religious watcher, but we'll watch it if it's on. You get sucked in. And then my husband and I, we usually try to watch shows in the evenings together, just to like spend some quality time. And it's also the time I'm generally hopping on the exercise bike to work out. And our most recent shows that we've gotten into are Man in the High Castle, it's an Amazon show, Homeland, which is a Showtime show, and we started watching The Pope just last week. Favorite movie? I have so many favorite movies. This is really hard. When I was growing up, My Girl was one of my favorites by far. I love, love, love My Girl. By high school, that was when like The Notebook came out, and I'm just such a hopeless romantic. So I feel like The Notebook is definitely up there. And then I think just from a historical and social justice perspective, I've always loved Forrest Gump because I think it gives such a cool perspective on all of just the changes and social justice issues that America has had during that time period from the 50s through, like ends in like the 90s or maybe late 80s is kind of where it ends. But it's cool to think about like the 50s, 60s, 70s into the 80s, all of that change that went on in our country. And like, you know, that was when, especially my dad, because he was born in 51 and then my mom was born in 63, but I always thought it was kind of cool to think about, oh, this is like what it looked like for them in America when they were growing up. This was such a good question. What do you hope Landon will be someday? There isn't one thing in particular that I'm like, we have a history of this, like you should be this. But if I'm thinking of what I, you know, consider to be a really helpful career, and when I think of my family's history and my grandmother who grew up in extreme like poverty, she was taken into the foster care system before kindergarten, and she told me like she'd never brushed her teeth until she was adopted in kindergarten. And she was the only one of her 8 brothers and sisters even to get adopted. The rest of them like stayed in the foster care system. And this is like a really like off the topic of the actual question. But long story short, didn't have dental care. And Landon, I mean, we've been brushing his teeth since the time he got his first tooth, which I feel like was really early compared to my other friends. It was like by 6 months he started having teeth. But he loves brushing his teeth. So I've always joked, and I predicted on his like first birthday little chalkboard thing that I made, that he'll be a dentist someday. And I just think that's a really incredible profession because your smile has so much to do with you and sharing your personality and making folks feel comfortable. And I think it would be great if he could be like a dentist to help kids who maybe can't afford great dental care, like the place my grandma was in at one point. And Pressley, I have no idea what she will be, but whatever she is, I hope she feels like an empowered female who never lets the fact that she's a girl hold her back from anything. This was an interesting question, and I don't know where this came from, but somebody asked me if I was ever a smoker or have I ever tried smoking. And the answer to that is no. I've actually never smoked a cigarette, and I've never smoked weed either, so just was never my thing. What is the hardest thing about being a mom? This is such a good question. I mean, there are hard things that I think physically and mentally, and this is more from even a pregnancy standpoint. When you're pregnant, you're constantly second guessing, like, is this the right food I should be eating? Am I taking good enough care of myself? You're just in this constant state of, I feel like, over analyzing and making sure everything that you're doing is right. After having the baby, and I would say after going back to work, For me, it was nursing. Nursing was really, really hard from the pumping perspective. If I never had to pump, I think we would have been fine. But pumping was just really, really difficult and required, I'm an organized person, it required so much planning and organization for when I would be traveling for work and just stress of planning my day. The pumping thing was really, really tough. Now, beyond like the newborn baby into the toddler stage, I would still say it's work related. It's just leaving your babies. It's kind of giving up that locus of control to someone else of here's what my kid's going to do today, or when they're upset or, you know, even misbehaving. You're giving up that ability to parent your kid or discipline your child in the way that you think is best. So there's just a lot, like it's giving up that control as a parent and saying like, okay, I have to put my trust in someone else's hands and not, unfortunately, get that time to spend with them. I think that's really, really hard too. Will you baptize your baby? Yes, we baptized Landon. It was actually really important to my husband that he was baptized in the Catholic Church. I was raised Lutheran and my husband was raised Catholic. So we had Landon baptized at like 3 months. I think we'll do the same thing with Pressley. And this was actually just so romantic and just always like makes me even get a little like emotional. We visited the Vatican right after we got engaged on a Mediterranean cruise we went on. And at that time, my husband picked out 4 rosaries, 2 for boys, 2 for girls, because he said, you know, no matter if we have 2 boys, he was always like, we want to have 2 kids. So he's like, this fine, no matter if we have 2 boys or 2 girls, we have a rosary for each of them, for when they're baptized and then for their first communion. And so yeah, we had Landon's for his baptism and Pressley has a rosary for herself from the Vatican. I always thought that was a really cool and good forward thinking on his part. Will you have any more kids? If you ask my husband, he would tell you no. Me, I want to wait and see. I would really like to sort of see what life is like with 2 and just like the place we become as a family and go through the transition before making that decision. I think my heart, I want to have a ton of babies, but my head tells me maybe it is more logical to have the 2, be able to really focus on them. Also from a financial standpoint of helping with college and activities and programs and things like that that I want them to be able to participate in. It's a lot more financially feasible to support 2 kids to go through that. So yeah, I think I just have to wait and see. Are you going to go back to work after you have Pressley? Yes, I will be going back to work. It's very important to me, and I think it's just something about me always having this goal of being a business working woman, that's just important to me. And I know it's really, really challenging to try to balance both, and there are some days, trust me, where I'm like, I just want to be with my babies. But the majority of the days, and I think that's what's the most important, I feel very fulfilled with the fact that I can provide and help support my family and help afford things that if I weren't working, we would never have the opportunity to do or to see or to have. And all of that is really important to like me and my self-worth and feeling like I'm a contributor and an equal partner in me and my husband's relationship. Will you breastfeed? Yes, planning to breastfeed Pressley. It was such a great bonding and also money saver when I was even just thinking about, wow, for 15 months, we just once in a while would get supplemental formula if like my traveling, if I hadn't had enough stocked up in the freezer, because Landon was a good eater. So I didn't really have a stockpile of frozen milk like some other mamas are able to achieve. But yeah, we saved a ton of money, and I think it's really healthy for the baby, and I felt like it was really good for me in postpartum weight loss and just bonding. You don't sleep much, but it's worth it. I don't sleep much anyways. Which pregnancy has been harder? Probably this one, but again, I feel incredibly blessed that I think for both of my pregnancies, I've stayed really active. I've been able to work. My morning sickness hasn't been debilitating. So I feel very lucky compared to what some other moms go through during pregnancies. I would say though, my morning sickness was stronger with Pressley, and obviously having a toddler running around, I just am on my feet so much more. I'm generally a very active, busy person anyways, but I remember with Landon, I would still feel like there was so much more time just for me to either have self-reflection or just go do things I enjoy. And like, I'm not going to workout classes, I have to work out at home. So there's just different things that are adjustments that you make, but all worth it for these little ones, honestly. Okay, that was all of the questions I had for you guys. I feel like this might be a really chatty video, so sorry that I rambled on for so long, but I hope you enjoyed getting some of your questions answered. If you have any more that you would like to know, leave them in the comments below, and if they are fast, I can answer them in the comments, or if they take a little bit more of explaining, I can answer them in an upcoming video as well. And if you have any video requests, let me know that in the comments below too. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.